She is called the goddess of pop. She has sold over 100 million records, won an Academy Award, earned a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award, and was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2024. From the outside, Cher's life looks like the greatest success story ever told. But as she approaches 80 years old, the reality behind the spotlight tells a very different and deeply painful story. The glittering awards, the sold-out tours, the iconic image, none of it could shield her from heartbreak, illness, family tragedy, and loneliness. Today, we pull back the curtain on the life of one of the world's most beloved entertainers and ask the question that few people dare to ask. What does life really look like for Cher now? To understand where Cher is today, you have to understand where she came from. Born Sherilyn Sarkisian on May 20, 1946, in El Centro, California, Cher entered the world into a household held together by very little. Her mother, Georgia Holt, was an aspiring actress and singer who married a total of 7 times in her life, including twice to Cher's biological father, John Sarkisian, a man who struggled with gambling and drug addiction. Their relationship was volatile from the start, and the marriage collapsed when Cher was just 10 months old. George's repeated marriages meant that young Cher lived a nomadic, financially strained existence. When things became truly desperate, when Cher was only 2 years old, Georgia placed her daughter in a Catholic orphanage for several weeks while she tried to get back on her feet financially. The little girl who would one day sell out arenas around the world began her life being temporarily surrendered by the person who was supposed to protect her. Cher and her half-sister spent extended periods living with their grandparents as Georgia struggled to find steady work. In a 2010 Vanity Fair cover story, Cher spoke candidly about the shame she felt growing up poor. She recalled going to school with rubber bands around her shoes to hold the soles in place because her mother could not afford replacements. Life fluctuated wildly. One week they were eating canned beans. The next they were briefly living in Beverly Hills when Georgia caught a small acting break. That constant instability left marks on Cher that no amount of fame could fully erase. School was its own kind of suffering. Cher was never diagnosed during her childhood, but she later discovered she has dyslexia, a learning disability that made reading and academic work deeply challenging. She received poor grades and was frequently told she was not living up to her potential. In an interview quoted on the University of Michigan's Dyslexia Help website, Cher explained that she received DS, FS, and some CS, with occasional A's and BS, and that her report cards always said the same thing: she could do better. What those report cards never acknowledged was that she was fighting a neurological battle every single day without any support or understanding. At 16, unable to find her place within the traditional education system, Cher made the radical decision to drop out of school entirely and move to Los Angeles to pursue her dream of becoming a star. In Los Angeles, a 16-year-old Cher crossed paths with 27-year-old Salvatore Sonny Bono, a songwriter and record promoter. What began as a platonic, professional arrangement, with Cher essentially acting as a housekeeper, evolved into one of the most famous romantic and musical partnerships of the 20th century. By 1965, Sonny and Cher's hit single I Got You Babe had propelled the young couple to international fame, becoming an anthem for an entire generation. But behind the matching outfits and the banter on stage, their marriage was quietly breaking apart. Both Sonny and Cher engaged in extramarital affairs, but Sonny's persistent womanizing wore Cher down to the bone. A diary entry written by Sonny Bono on August 21, 1973 read, "My public wife is still Cher. In order to maintain all the things I want right now, that's the way it has to be." That single sentence says everything. Cher had been reduced to a business arrangement in her own marriage. When the divorce was finally finalized in 1975, Cher left with virtually nothing. She was penniless, carrying substantial debts, and for the first time in her adult life, was completely on her own. What followed was one of the most painful professional stretches of her career. Album after album failed to chart. Her 1975 album Stars stalled at number 153 on the Billboard 200. Her 1976 release I'd Rather Believe in You didn't even make the chart. By 1978, Warner Brothers had terminated her contract altogether. Cher, the woman who had once been one of the most recognizable faces in the world, found herself unemployable as a recording artist. Just 3 days after her divorce from Sonny was finalized, Cher made a decision that even she would later acknowledge was made in a storm of emotion. She married hard-partying Southern rock musician Greg Allman of the Allman Brothers Band. The marriage lasted 9 days before Cher filed for divorce. Allman's severe struggles with alcoholism and heroin addiction had been hidden from her, and she was completely unprepared for what she walked into. The couple tried again. They reconciled, and Cher became pregnant with their son, Elijah Blue Allman. But by 1978, the marriage had collapsed for good. Then, in 2017, Greg Allman lost his battle with liver cancer and died at the age of 69. Cher took to social media to express her grief, writing simply that words were impossible. Decades of complicated history, love, addiction, heartbreak, a child. And in the end, all she could say was that words had failed her. Some losses are simply too large for language. In 1987, at the very peak of her Hollywood career following her Academy Award for Moonstruck, Cher contracted the Epstein-Barr virus while filming The Witches of Eastwick. For a time, she didn't fully understand what was happening to her body. It was during the filming of Mermaids that the disease fully revealed its devastating power. Production had to be shut down entirely while she recovered. "I was so sick I thought I was going to die," she told Vanity Fair in 1990. "I went to doctor after doctor." She told the New York Times, "For 2 years, I couldn't work. It was terrible. I ended the second year with pneumonia. All these movie offers were coming in, but I had to turn them all down. I was really, really upset about it. And when I came back, I had to work my way back up from the beginning." The Epstein-Barr virus never fully leaves the body. It lies dormant and can reawaken. In 2007, Cher suffered another debilitating bout of the same illness. In a BBC interview, she was asked whether she thought the illness was psychosomatic. Her answer was clear and exhausted at the same time. "My experience was that it was really a physical illness, but it does make you depressed as well. Boy, it was devastating for me. To battle a disease that most people have never heard of, that doctors struggled to understand, that stripped away her career and nearly killed her, and to do it largely in silence, says everything about the kind of strength and isolation that life at the top can actually produce." Perhaps the most painful chapter of Cher's life in recent years has unfolded not on stage or in a courtroom, but in the private agony of watching her youngest son, Elijah Blue Allman, fight a battle with addiction and mental illness that she has been powerless to stop. In late 2023, Cher filed for a financial conservatorship over Elijah, telling a Los Angeles court that the situation was urgently needed. Court filings stated that Elijah suffered from severe mental health and substance abuse issues that left him unable to manage his finances. According to documents, after receiving monthly distributions from a trust left by his late father, Elijah would allegedly check into expensive hotels, buy drugs, and end up in a hospital or in an overdose crisis, repeating the cycle month after month. He had allegedly accumulated an $18,000 debt with a drug dealer and caused over $50,000 in damage to rental properties. A judge denied Cher's initial request in January 2024 after Elijah told the court he was managing his own recovery. Cher withdrew the petition in September 2024 following a private settlement, but Elijah allegedly never followed through on his promises. By 2026, Cher filed for conservatorship again. Her own lawyers described Elijah as someone experiencing periods of psychosis and noted he had been placed on involuntary hospital holds multiple times. The court rejected this second bid as well, though Cher reserved the right to refile. This is the reality behind the sequins and the headlines. A mother, approaching 80 years old, standing before a judge, begging for the legal authority to protect her son from himself, and being turned away twice. There is nothing glamorous about that. There is only a parent's worst nightmare, playing out in public, with the whole world watching. Even Cher's romantic life at this stage carries its own kind of sadness. After years of solitude, she found companionship with Alexander A.E. Edwards, a music executive nearly 40 years her junior. The relationship, which began in late 2022, was marked from the start by scrutiny, public skepticism, and family opposition. The couple briefly separated in May 2023 before reconciling. By November 2024, sources reported that Cher's own family, including her son Chaz Bono, had serious concerns about Edwards' true intentions. One insider told the Daily Mail that her family had given up on trying to convince her that Alexander does not have her best interests in mind. There were also reported fears within her family that she might include Edwards in her will. Family members worried about red flags. Cher, for her part, defended the relationship and continued to stand by him. But even in love, the woman who once commanded the world's attention finds herself surrounded by doubt, conflict, and concern. In November 2024, Cher published the first part of her 2-volume memoir, Cher, the Memoir, which debuted at #1 on the New York Times bestseller list and remained there for 3 weeks. She was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in October 2024, finally receiving recognition she had been denied for over 3 decades. She had famously said in December 2023 that she wouldn't be in it now if they gave me $1 million. At the ceremony, she performed alongside Dua Lipa, 2 generations united by one timeless voice. She was celebrated. She was honored. And yet, within months of those triumphs, she was standing before a judge in Los Angeles, pleading for help for her son. Within the same year, her family was quietly opposing her relationship. And somewhere in the background, an illness that nearly killed her in the 1980s still lives inside her body, dormant but never gone. Cher is now approaching 80 years old. She has survived poverty, 2 failed marriages, professional bankruptcy, chronic illness, the death of her first husband in a tragic skiing accident, the loss of her second husband to cancer, the estrangement of one son, and the devastating addiction crisis of another. She has been reinvented and dismissed and reinvented again more times than most people can count. But here's the question that lingers. Behind all of that reinvention, all of that survival, all of those comeback tours and standing ovations, is she okay? The woman who told the world she believed in life after love has spent most of her own life finding out just how painful love can be. The woman whose voice fills arenas sometimes seems to have no one in her corner who isn't fighting her, worrying about her, or needing something from her. That is the truth about Cher at nearly 80. Not a tragedy, not a failure, but a human being, one of the most gifted and resilient human beings the world has ever produced, carrying a weight that all the applause in the world can never quite lift. What do you think about everything Cher has endured throughout her incredible life? Let us know in the comments below. If this video moved you, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. There are more stories like this one waiting for you.